Someone delivering pizzas on the back of a bike is not running a small business. They are a worker with very few rights, and depending on their app, they'll get different levels of treatment. We want them to have some minimum standards. Because while we all love the technology, it's got to be possible to have 21st century technology without having 19th century working conditions. That has to be something that we can manage as a country. The next right that'll be available for gig workers, and I hate the term, and I'm now going to say it out loud on television, so that's just life. I remember the first time I dealt with unfair dismissal jurisdictions, and people often use the word termination, and the word, as language, it's pretty dramatic language. They've managed to go one up in the gig economy, and they call it deactivation. But it's effectively what happens if you're dismissed from a platform. There can be cases here, like with any dismissal, that are completely reasonable, and there can be cases that are unreasonable. But at the moment, you don't have a guarantee of any disputes resolution mechanism for people in those circumstances. And so there will be a jurisdiction within the Fair Work Commission for people to be able to effectively make a claim for unfair deactivation if they're bounced off one of the platforms and they believe that there's no merit to that decision. So that takes us halfway down the ramp. So not as many rights as an employee, but certainly more than zero, which is where people are at the moment, and the full flexibility of the technology and the convenience of the technology remains. Down the bottom, independent contractors. There's a small jurisdiction that will be established in the legislation when I introduce it next week for the Fair Work Commission. In my first term here, John Howard was in his last term as Prime Minister. And as part of the industrial relations changes, so we all remember work choices, but there was also, they talked a lot about the Independent Contractors Act, that they were going to create rights for independent contractors, and this would be a game changer. In the life of that legislation, so it's about 17 years since it was brought in now, it's been used 68 times. And only 3 occasions in all of that time where a court has made a ruling under the Independent Contractors Act. And there's a reason for this. It's not that it created rights that no one wanted. It's that to be able to use the Independent Contractors Act, you have to be able to lawyer up and turn up with a legal team to the Federal Court of Australia. And most independent contractors are not in a position to be able to do that.